Today on Lulz, we have a little bit of an update on some of that AI sports betting content we were talking about a few episodes ago. And we also were talking about Tom Dwan. We have an update on him, maybe a video we can all watch together. Sounds like a classic episode of Lulz with Pete and Bric 75. Let's do it.
Does he think? I think he thinks this. He thinks this is a go. Vegas Dave thinks this is a go.
Hot naked girls doing yoga.
What?
Why don't you just win like a man?
Random.org. Type in 1 for yes, 2 for no, and let the DFS gods pick for you.
And I'm absolutely begging you not to dupe us. Please don't dupe us.
All right, Brian, welcome to Lulz. How are we doing this week?
Doing good. I mean, I didn't see the clickbait title. Is it just another episode of Lulz?
I wrote another episode of Lulz parentheses clickbait. The people kind of know how the sausage gets made around here, but normally Brian and I will touch base about some topics. If we have a clear one, I'll, try to make that the title of the episode. But when I made the event, we had not had that conversation yet. And instead of lying to the people, I just thought I would be honest and tell them it is technically another episode of Lulz.
Why does the like 6-hour best ball mega streams do so much better than just an hour stream? It seems like it's exponential. Like you'll get like 10 or 12,000.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way I understand it is YouTube loves live streams when you're live, and they're willing to promote those, throw them in people's For You pages, watch pages for as long as you're live. So the longer you're going, the more willing they are to promote it. The second it ends, they treat it like a pre-recorded video. And then you have to play by all those other rules where it's like, if you don't hook someone right away, they're clicking off, all of these things. And so then like views kind of plummet for live streams once they're done being recorded. So it's like, if you're not striking while the iron's hot, so to speak, with a longer live stream, then you're competing against better short form content that's engineered to be watched in a more evergreen way. And, one most recent data point, like last year, I would do those randomizer streams, and I would do them on like a Thursday night hour stream. Like, I still think the randomizer was a really cool concept. I thought it could like find a wider audience on YouTube. And the views were just like stuck at 1,000, even at the end of last year at the start of the season. And this year I was like, I'm going to put it as part of a block. And so I did that show yesterday, Best Ball Bash, where I did a draft before and then randomizer after. And the video is already at 2,000 views. I couldn't even get over 1,000 views at the end of last year. So I think it's just like YouTube's just like, you got to do long streams, brother.
Do you think AI will figure this all out for us, Pete?
It should. I mean, you say that, and like YouTube has talked about that before, of like they want to be in the podcast game. You see what Spotify is able to do, obviously Apple Podcasts. Like they should be incentivized to figure out how to make like short form, like mid form and long form all work in tandem for the algorithm. But right now it feels like very splintered.
Yeah, but that was also a segue attempt. It was a failed segue attempt to the AI thread.
Yes. No, there was an interesting thing. I have to scroll back here because we had talked about, so the Jonathan Bales, Cal Spears, new company, Gambly. But now they have a spinoff to that called Taeks, which is basically a service that is crawling through all kinds of sports betting and fantasy content and synthesizing it into little blurbs via AI. And so I know some of my shows have gotten in there. It's like Peter Overzet said this about Caleb Williams, et cetera. And one of the interesting things that we were talking about is, are some creators going to have issues with this, where this idea is you're creating this content, you want people to come click, download, whatever. All of a sudden you can just go to Taeks and see all the content there. You never have to leave. And we kind of had that conversation. A couple creators messaged me even after that episode being like, yeah, I don't love this for me and my business. And then there was a conversation that took place via Leone reply to a Bales tweet. Had you seen this? I'll try to pull it up.
I did. The first thing I saw on this is like, well, Davis needs to sue immediately. The Taeks.
I know. I think Davis isn't Davis like a sponsored pro for Taeks over there. I know he's done. I believe he's collected a little bit of a paycheck or something for.
Yeah. Oh, I want to talk about that. The ending of Swolecast too. Eventually, if we get there.
Yes, let's get to it. But so Bales, basically showed a little demo of how Taeks works. You can even search by creator. You see Adam Levitan there at the top. And then Leone, or I think one of the other things is, not in this tweet. He had referenced Levitan before, but Leone kind of jokingly, or maybe not so jokingly, says, when do Levitan and Silva get their royalties?
No.
Bales responds, I actually think there's quite a few interesting rev share and affiliate ideas we'll explore. And then Leone came back and said, I know it's not your intent, but you should be able to see how this comes off. And then he kind of said, in his voice, we've used your content to make our product. We've used your brand personalities to sell our content. We haven't asked, but hey, maybe we'll explore some rev share and affiliate ideas. So before we read Bales's reply, what do you think of that comment from Leone?
The first thing I see is that you liked that post. And did not like. so I think we know who's biased here, Pete. And as we've learned, biased is an argument. I probably shouldn't announce my Leone Bot 5000 tool I have coming out next week. He might not. Turns out we might not need to change the name of that. I think it did like just. It's text, so like there is it you can't tell that Leone was apparently not not happy about it from his first comment. When did they get their royalties? And Bales responded like he was joking.
Yes.
And so that's probably talking past each other a little bit because of the text base of Twitter. I know what Bale's response is here, so he did ask. But that, like Leone's point, is this huge meta point going on with AI, generally speaking, even outside the Taeks tool.
And I think what makes it, and we kind of had that larger conversation. I mean, there's precedent. We talked a few weeks ago. There's the OpenAI and New York Times case. Like this is an issue that's going to continue to pop up. This one I think is particularly relevant. One, because it's in our sphere and neck of the woods, but also because of kind of the entanglement too, Bales and what he says too. Like he's an investor in ETR, and what makes it interesting is those kind of blurred lines of, is this something where everyone is on board with this together, that it's a rising tide lifts all boats? Or is there maybe a little miscommunication here between ETR and Gambly / Taeks about what is kind of fair and equitable, and how much of a green light do you actually have to kind of continually use us as examples to promote your new product?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know Bales was an ETR investor.
Yeah. I think he said that in another post as well. Oh yeah, here you go. No, it's in this one. Outside of subjective friendship, I have an objective incentive to not hurt ETR, which is that I invested the most I've ever invested into any company by an order of magnitude, what would be considered by almost anyone to be an irrationally high percentage of my net worth for a single investment. And I guess the counter to that would be, obviously that works really well for him to be an investor in both ETR and obviously an owner of Gambly. But does it work in the other direction if you're an ETR, employee, investor, owner, and don't have any equity in Gambly or Taeks, right? Like there's not necessarily that mutual back and forth benefit there.
Maybe I'm not reading that right. I don't think that necessarily means he has invested in ETR.
Oh, no. He said, I have an objective incentive to not hurt ETR, which is that I invested the most I've ever invested into any company by an order of magnitude. He's talking about investing in ETR.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he asked, I do like generally speaking, though, this is going to be popping up in worlds that we aren't so deep into a lot, because I see that kind of as the short term here with AI is the more niche trained LLMs in all these different areas. So this is going to be popping up So if somebody does have like an ETR kind of, it's not related, but like something where someone could do this to your company, like you gotta start thinking ahead.
Yeah. And so like the other part of this, is he does clarify we are using AI to summarize free content. We don't look at things behind the paywall. So that could definitely be something that comes where it maybe encourages sites to do more paywalled content, less free content. And then they also said that, and I assume it's in response of this initial thing because they didn't roll this out as part of the product, but they said, now we're happy to allow any creators to opt out of Taeks. You can DM them at Taeks by Gambly here to do that and let them know. We'll send out a tweet making that stance more obvious to all creators so there's no ambiguity around our intentions. So that's another interesting step forward. I think it was good for them to do that. I'm surprised that they maybe didn't just get out in front of that and say, like, put that out as part of the initial product, and kind of avoid all of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think about that move?
That's all the right answers, right, Pete? Isn't that
all
basically every right answer? I want to see. So I think Leone responds just one line. I don't agree with a lot of that or something right below it. I don't see eye to eye with that on all of that. I would like to hear him. Does he expand at all any of his arguments?
Bales? No,
Leone. Like, because Leone just says, I don't see eye to eye. What do you mean by you don't see eye to eye on? Like, what specifically? Because it's only free content. I guess that doesn't necessarily make it okay either. If it's free on your site, you're not putting it on your site free necessarily for all to use. It's a marketing tool to get people to come to your site and then subscribe to the premium stuff. So that's fair.
To me, I was thinking about it. So like, I'm not going to opt out of this because like the kind of content I make, I'm not worried. Like no one's not clicking on my stream because they saw I had a hot take about Brock Bowers on Take.
This could only help you probably.
Yes. However, I do think there's a difference in, would you agree, ETR in both the literal sense and the figurative sense of like thought leadership, they are originators. They originate projections. They originate takes. They are a market mover. And a lot of that is obviously behind the paywall if it's projections, but a lot of it, they have a massive podcast feed with Evan and Adam. They do have some free articles as well. To have like a holistic picture of like Adam and Evan's takes on the NFL landscape that you'd otherwise have to watch their YouTube videos or listen to, that I think dovetails into maybe a different grayer territory as far as how it feels to them to have their content, aggregated and repurposed.
Yeah, clearly. I wish you would go into it, but that's probably got to be part of it. It seems like kind of like reverse ESPN or something, like where they have all these takes, but instead of having the creators be employed by ESPN, they outsource it.
Yeah,
and then show you what everyone's thinking. I mean, I would just say generally speaking, though, I find it hard to have a problem with his response here and the way they're going about it, and it's mutually beneficial for a lot of these content creators probably. But ETR is also pretty big, as we've explored over the past few weeks, and so I don't think it benefits them as nearly as much as it does. I don't know. Name somebody else they have on that list.
Well, no, for sure. I mean, there's very small niche best ball creators who are getting aggregated on there and if you look in his screenshot, right, where it's at the beginning here, does it show the names of the authors? I think it was in the screenshot here somewhere, but it's all displayed the same. It's not like there's a premium. It's alphabetical order. Adam Levitan is worth the same as Adam Tomato, who has a YouTube channel with 250 subscribers. So like in that regard, like you said, like to have my name, my takes next to Adam Levitan, like, $1 million company. And I'm just over here making a few streams a week. Like that is good exposure for those smaller creators, I'm sure.
It's got to be. and it's like in its current iteration is a very normie product too, like for normies, I would say, right?
Yes.
And ETR is big, but I wouldn't say it's really for normies. Kind of, I don't know. I don't know
I
if they're
think
overlapping a ton.
I think they do a good bit, and I think kind of the reaction to the RTA slash solver slash draft assistant things kind of hinted at their audience being a little bit bigger than the old school DFS crowd that have grown up with optimizers and now solvers. Like, I think they have cultivated a very large fan base. If you read the comments, not on our Lulz video, but on their initial video where they were demoing it, there were some where it's like, you've lost caring for the common man. All I need is Silva's top 150. Like, there are a lot of people that came to that site who are like, I'm just going to subscribe to get Evan's top 150 ranks for my redraft league. And that's what I'm going to draft off of. So I think they've middled it pretty well, like catering to the hardcores, but to have the business success that they've had, they've obviously had to widen that funnel into normies, who are just playing in a couple season long leagues.
Maybe there's more going on that Leone knows that we don't, too. Could be a piece of this.
Yes.
They also the ETR guys too. They have like individual deals too with people. I wonder what their perspective is with if you're like Fear My Turtle or something. If you got like a rev share deal with ETR, if this hurts that aspect for you.
Yeah,
I can't see how it would too much, but maybe.
The only thing I would say is most of those niche creators that they work with are for like hyper paywalled products, like their UFL, their college football. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure like 95% of that is like behind the paywall, outside of maybe like a preview article or a preview podcast as a marketing thing. Like, all of that stuff, the Fear My Turtle, is all paywalled. Like, I don't think you would see any Fear My Turtle like paywalled Gambly or unpaywalled Gambly takes.
Yeah.
One other thing you mentioned that I think I was thinking about with this too, and is just like an interesting hurdle for Gambly and takes in general, is this idea that I think ultimately their product is serving a type of sports fan outside of our bubble. They're looking for the person who's coming in. They just want to have a Google for sports betting or fantasy, type it in. They might not even know who Adam Levitan is, but they like seeing these takes. Oh, I get a feel for it. I feel like I'm cramming for a test, so to speak, getting validation in the same way you'd use Google to like Google how to fix your dishwasher. It's like, who should I start this week? And it gives you that information. However, like the way companies grow and businesses grow, you need those close network effects, right? Like, you need your early adopters to be on board. You need those people to evangelize it. If you're alienating that group of people that you need for it to like latch on, that's an interesting marketing dilemma for them. Is like, how do they get to that point where it gets rolling?
Yes. Yeah. Like I see this also as like a phone shooter bro app, kind of like a lot of ETR tools and just all of our Run the Sims and everything else is not really super phone friendly.
No,
you can do it with your phone, but for a guy who's making 2 lineups on a Sunday at depending 11:20 Central, going using this app, typing in what does this guy think? What does this guy think? All right, I'm a home stack, blah blah blah. Which is not really ETR's demographic. I could see Leone. I was trying to think of like things that Leone might argue. What about like from an actor standpoint? Like, because I was watching, they have these new fake movies, like I don't know if you've seen like Titanic 4 or Titanic 2, Back to the Future AI? 4. Yeah. And it's, Timothy Chalamet and if you're using actors like image or stylings, acting style, and then making some amalgamation of a character for your AI movie, you do owe those original content creators, but you can never prove it. They'll never get paid. I'm not talking about the direct ripoffs where it's clearly Michael J. Fox or something like that. I'm saying, like, the point being, if I'm relating to this, is like, if if Gambly or Taeks talks in the voice of Peter Overzet and Leone and whatever, it's, you know, they can't really prove that, but it's been trained on you guys.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about, just from like, how do they market this? If I were them, I'd almost lean into tagging the small creators who you've pulled some of their takes, because like we said, that's going to be a thrill to them that they're on here. Like, use that as kind of your viral push. Like, as an example, I retweeted some no vig March Madness sports betting influencer tournament they put on because I was one of the bracket seeds or whatever. I have no idea how I got on there. I have no, relationship with Novig, and they basically engagement farmed me to share it, being like, hey, go vote for me or whatever, because I'm in this. It's like, oh, I got included in this thing, where it's like, maybe the big creators feel like, hey, this doesn't benefit me at all. So go to the small creators, like start tagging them, like, because then you're going to get all of them sharing it. I promise you, if you don't have an ETR style business, and you have a small YouTube channel, you're going to retweet that. You're going to be excited that you were included in that. I just think that's an interesting way for them to potentially attack marketing, as opposed to like, this crew and his replies, like, they all know who Evan Silva is. They probably already subscribed to ETR. They probably already listened to that podcast. People are just getting mad. Maybe go to the little guys instead.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get the kind of buzz though if you have somebody no one's heard of. So you definitely you can search for your favorite person. I mean, Neil's in this in chat, and he's in this conversation too. Like, he could easily be one of these people, and it doesn't seem like he likes it.
Yeah. So he's referencing, there was another one of his tweets, and coincidentally, I was tagged in this one. I don't know if I can find this, how far back this was. He was talking about this dynamic of AI content. Man, hopefully I don't. Okay, here, I think this might be it. Okay, he said, prediction, the sports content that has real soul, think Adam and Peter, will become increasingly more valuable. The majority of content creators, though, will be replaced by AI very shortly, as they should be. And can I just, because you're outing me for my likes, can I say that I'm liking the first half of this tweet and not the second half, Brian?
No.
I've never needed a tweet to be spliced in half more. It's like when they say retweets do not equal endorsements. My like is only liking the first part.
That's a good idea, though. A half heart. You gotta click it twice to get the full heart.
He got me to like the tweet before I read the rest of it. He said, I want all of my friends to be replaced by AI. So this
does seem kind of true, though.
Neil's. How about this?
Yeah.
Okay. The majority of content creators, though, will be replaced by AI very shortly. That I think we can maybe agree on to an extent. I just think the as they should be was a gratuitous add-on to that.
Yeah. He's a businessman, though. He's talking to other business guys.
But don't you think there's a difference, like when we talk about like AI doomerism or even just like, this is what's going to happen, it's inevitable. There's that recognition, and then there's also saying like, that's also what should happen. I feel like there's a difference between being like, no, this is just the way things are going to go with technology, and saying it should go that way.
I didn't get. Okay. Yes. All right. I see. Yeah. All right. Then I would like the content, everything up to the last 4 words. Then I guess
that's what I'm saying.
The last 4 words, as they should be. He should just put like a gun emoji after that or something,
Well, it also, there's this weird kind of implication, right? If you're aggregating takes from people who should be replaced by AI, then what's the point of aggregating their takes in the first place?
Right. Yeah. This is Vine says he's a businessman does not excuse a lack of morals. Laugh out loud. I was saying before the last 4 words. From like a businessman type of perspective of like, hey, this is the future, it's a hard truth, is that AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. I think, this is him I'm speaking like him here. I think the content creators in this industry are more likely very shortly going to be replaced by AI. I think that's exactly what a businessman would think and say. And also in some ways, a harsh truth is also being nice to people. Like if you're starting out, like maybe you should spend your time doing something else if you agree with that this is the future. And maybe you wouldn't think that unless someone like Bale's position told you that. But yeah, as they should be at the end is not necessary. And I wasn't talking about that.
It's just so funny because I'm now like pulling this up on screen and the like is just so much fun because like I'm gonna like he's saying a very flattering thing to me about my type of content and that having soul and can't be replaced by AI, but that as they should be. I remember reading that and that was like it did feel like an unnecessary extension of what you're building.
Yeah, I doubt he really meant. I think he was probably like more. He's probably more just meta bullish on AI and the creative destruction aspect of it. That the future will all ben. I'm totally putting words in his mouth. Who knows what he means? But like the future will all benefit from this wonderful technology, just like all the other great inventions throughout human history eventually did, even though, the Luddites lost their jobs at certain times and revolted. I'm assuming that's the angle he's probably thinking of, but what do I know?
And it, I kind of go back to the, one of the mainstream AI talking points and from the people who are maybe less doomer about it is that like jobs might not necessarily be replaced, but like repurposed, right? Like it's like you have to become a good user and prompter of AI to like keep your job. Like if you can figure out how to be the one who harnesses AI, you're good. It's the ones who want to put their head in the sand and pretend like it doesn't exist or can't help or expedite processes. Those are the ones who are going to get eaten.
Yeah, putting your head in the sand seems like a big mistake. Like it's like Peter Schiff, with Bitcoin or whatever. So it's like even if you think it's all baloney, you at some point could have made a lot of money, at Bitcoin or utilized it in some way. So like even if you don't think AI is the future, it's still an industry that you need to at least take into account.
I think, how about this for brainstorming ways that they can traverse this dynamic before AI does truly eat the entire world in these couple year transition period? What if Taeks provided almost this white label service for sites, and they could start with sports betting and fantasy sites, and basically we're like, we will help you with our AI trained models repackage your content into different forms that you can then either sell or share or profit off of. Say it was like, hey, ETR, you guys do this like draft kit, or you guys have all of this knowledge on the site. What if we created an ebook for you, how to crush fantasy football? And we're going to go through all the old Establish the Million podcasts, and we're going to take all the evergreen nuggets and create this DFS by ETR ebook or audio book. And then you guys can sell that, and it requires no additional work for you. Or we're going to go to a site like, I don't know, like a 4for4 Rotoviz who churns out a ton of content, and we're going to make, a player digest. It could be anything like that. But I'm like, what if you reached out to these sites to provide them like white glove services like that?
Yeah. It's like TV shows once they get syndicated or something. Like, you already made this show, let us take this and then we'll show it again. Like, you don't have to do anything, you already made the show, let's show it again. It's like you as long as they don't have to do anything. The problem is they'd have to they'd want to approve it. I know what your general idea is. I like it. Yeah. I'm saying like from ETR specifically, like they can't be like, you can't put our name on something an AI creates unless we like look it over and make sure the info is good. And if we're going to do that, why don't we just sell it ourselves? But I get the idea in theory would be nice that like, hey, you put in all this work. It would be like, like an idea I had, like the old videos I made on my old YouTube channel. I was like, man, I could just like put this into AI and go like make a book or make an article from my old videos, and then here's what it is, something like that, and then I don't have to redo anything. I think that's a good use case. Link, just links to, obviously, like,
Yeah. Well, I
promoting
think
to
of,
other people.
I make a lot of content in disparate places, different YouTube channels, write my newsletter, write Fantasy Life newsletter. Like in my newsletter, I try to do like a roundup of the week, aggregate it for people who might have missed stuff or whatever. Like there's services that I assume AI in the future will be able to create my roundup for me. What were all the content Peter made with links and a quick little summary that I don't have to spend 30 minutes or whatever doing that myself. Like I do see a lot of use cases for that kind of stuff within the content world.
Yeah, I mean that I'm like picturing, like, why even have a newsletter? Like a newsletter should just be a link to an ever updating AI. Like because as you
the reason is that for the newsletters, I am writing original content in the intros. The second part, it's not just exclusively a digest, but
I meant just that part though. Yeah, just that part of
right.
Here's what happened in DFS this week or whatever. That should just be, these days, it should just be a live updating widget.
And I think that's another cool use case for this. And one of the things when they initially launched kind of what they were doing, and I think they're in his initial screenshot of the post, there was a tab called Sentiment, which I thought was going to be pretty cool for DFS ownership purposes, where, we're always kind of playing this soft science of trying to figure out where is the field going to differ from projections, who's getting steam, who's getting buzzed up. A tool like that to kind of quantify which players are getting talked about the most on shows is a way to have a sentiment, boost for ownership, I think is pretty cool. I do think there's, again, for that, like we all talk about like how busted the For You algorithm is. Like if you created your own hub of like, what are the hot topics in DFS right now too? And it's like, here's the 5 different shows that gave takes on the RTA, draft assistant thing. Like you created this almost like curated content experience for people who are like, I want to get caught up on everything someone's talking about, with like 5 links out to those pieces of content. Like stuff like that could be cool too.
Yeah, definitely. I have a take I thought of yesterday. Yeah. I want to get your opinion on. Like, okay, let's say AI does, this is more meta, not specific to this app. AI does get what, I don't know what the word is, ubiquitous or whatever. It's everywhere and it's taking over jobs. I think this industry is one of the best to survive. So gambling and sports, because if people don't have jobs, that usually they still gamble. And it's like more reason to gamble. And that sounds bad, but like people have a lot of free time. It's an entertainment product as well as the reason that they do it. It's not necessary. Like if you're part of the creative destruction crowd, people might have more wealth eventually from all of this. And in sports, that people are not gonna, they're more likely probably to like go to a game or dive into, their team, their interest level in their team. And hopefully, people aren't losing their jobs en masse. Like I don't want that to happen, but just generally speaking, I think the gambling industry is probably not going to get super affected by it. Sports probably not going to get super affected by it. Like, like lawyers will get affected by it. Stuff like that will.
Yeah. And even now, like you think about fantasy content, right? Even season-long fantasy content, it's so saturated. I could name like 30 sites off the top of my head that all have like pretty big followings that do their own rankings and projections and all this. And so then you say, what separates, what makes a casual person join one site over another? And we've talked about this dynamic with DFS sites too, where there is like this community element, or who is my tribe? Who do I want to align myself with? And I think if you asked a lot of people who subscribe to a site, it would be because of a specific personality or a vibe or a cultural thing that they want to be a part of with that site. And a lot of the things that might be replaced, it's like, okay, I just want to have aggregated projections across 19 different sites or whatever. It's like, okay, maybe AI can do that for me. But I think a lot of what people are getting out of these subscriptions is there is probably more of a community element or an entertainment aspect to the tout than maybe people would admit on the surface.
Sure. Yeah. Even if you want to get down to that micro level of us in the gambling industry, I think that's true. I think like sports too. I think sports, you could replace the athletes with robots, even if you wanted to go that far. And people would still be fans because of the tribalism. They would still be for the Chicago Robot Bears, the Chicago Robots, you know, like they would still be they would still gamble on them. They might gamble on them more if it's battle on the football field. So I think sports isn't going anywhere either way. The gambling entertainment industries in like this content creator section, I think is safer, to your point, than like the producers in movies and stuff like that. Like I don't know, or people who work more on the creative side of making. I don't know. It seems like those are getting pretty good pretty fast.
Yeah.
You know, the actors and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's also really interesting because a lot of what they're doing with the other side of their product, Gambly, is like meeting like a real market demand. Like you were talking about the phone stuff. We talked to Holka too. Like what's the mindset of a lot of these people who are on TikTok that just want to tail a bet? You know, they don't really care about the price that much or whatever. You know, Gambly's kind of an extension of that idea of like, there's just a lot of bros and female broettes on their phones who want to tail a bet. And if Gambly is going to create a quick link to fill out a parlay slip for you in easy fashion, and you can see, you know, where that came from or whatever, like that's playing into that dynamic. I just think it's interesting, like almost the separation of their brands right now and how those are perceived, because I haven't seen like any backlash to the product Gambly itself. Like everyone's just like, oh, that's a really cool utility service of you making my life easier when I want to place a bet.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this goes to the, is it a normie product? And you know, and should ETR fight back? Should ETR just make their own?
That's the other thing. Yeah. Of like, how much of a competitive advantage, you know, do you have with that code? I mean, obviously they have a banger team of devs working on it. But one of the things people have been dunking on is if you go through the Taeks thing, the summaries, there's typos, there's, you know, saying the wrong player name. Like it hasn't been vetted. It is truly AI spitting it out. Like I realize this is like the whole kind of push pull of ideally you're having AI eliminate the need for this. But like right now, the product needs an editor. Like it needs an editor to vet the blurbs, because I've seen multiple screenshots of like messed up things, which is again an issue. Like, how do you get people to trust your product or want to keep coming back and use it if like it's not even spelling a player's name right or whatever?
Yeah, just a problem with AI in general right now.
Right.
Which is, it's so weird. We live in this world where like, you know, everything could be different 10 years from now, but also like it won't do the simplest things, or it answers a question you know the answer to wrong, or it just, you know, or it just spits out nonsense. That is the like how it's like, is it a paradox or whatever? Like once it starts training on let's say you guys, and then it stops training on you because you all lose your jobs. Is it just based on, you know, 2015 Pete's comments now? Is it ever going to be able to grow if it's an LLM still? Mm-hmm. You know, when does that stop and when does that start? You know, if it doesn't actually get to general intelligence, which it probably won't anytime soon. Mm-hmm. And content creators do lose their jobs, especially the small ones, as they should. You know, what's it going to be trained on? I think that's definitely an interesting thought.
Yeah, and I think if you think down the road of like what gets replaced first, a lot of it are going to be the people who are already kind of trying to turn what I would call like copy pasta into content. Like if you're SEO farming, right? You're like pulling stuff from here, trying to get the buzzwords, like slopping it up. It is like, that's the kind of stuff that AI can directly replicate. Like when I write my fantasy columns, even for Fantasy Life, I'm giving best ball advice. Maybe some of the tentpole strategy elements like AI could generate and pull from that, but I'm interjecting current examples, jokes, things to like make it an entertaining read, stuff that I don't think, AI would be able to replicate that POV. Maybe it could. Maybe ultimately it could, but I think that's still a long ways away.
And maybe it doesn't have to, like if you do the actor thing again, and so it's like training on Harrison Ford and Timothy and Brad Pitt and every actor, Denzel Washington, and then they all retire and there's no more actors. Is that enough of a data set? It's definitely enough of a data set to make really good AI movies, but is it gonna come up with anything new?
Yeah.
I mean, it's acting, so I guess how could it? I don't know. Like, I don't know how different it has to be. So like if you do it with DFS, like if it gets enough articles, does it really matter? Like if there's new content created so it can continue to learn, or is that enough? And another issue is with the hallucinations, like the bullshit. Like if you just train it and then say, okay, we need a recap for the Sunday football slate, it can just spit out just pure bullshit from buzzwords and stuff from things that learn that don't even make sense.
For sure.
I mean, that's probably what it would do right now.
Yeah. And it's like anything. We've talked about this. I think there's a word for it, the phenomenon, like when you're reading an article about something, you're a domain expert and you notice like all these flaws. Like I was reading the Rolling Stone article that Dave Hill wrote about Justin Herzig being the best fantasy player in the world. And the thing that we've all been laughing about is him calling stacking a counterintuitive strategy. Because it's like the whole point of stacking is it's actually intuitive why that would make sense. But if I knew nothing about fantasy football, I would have read over that line and never blinked an eye. Like never. So how many times do I read a New York Times article about a subject I'm not a domain expert in? I'm just like, okay, that is a counterintuitive thing. It's just yes. It probably happens all the fucking time.
Exactly. Yeah, the Gelman amnesia effect you're describing. Somebody mentioned governance and like what to do are really interesting issues because of the exponential nature of the growth of the product of AI. It's because even this Gambly and stuff. Well, maybe 6 months from now, there'll be an app where you can make Gambly with very little effort, little coding skills. It'll code it for you, and ETR can just make their own, and they saved all this development time and everything. Like I was telling Davis, like high schools can use like a prompt class right now, like how to prompt the AI properly and make it give you what you want. And it's like, and I'm like, yeah, but by the time the semester's over, you probably don't even need it. You almost don't even need to learn how to read. You eventually, definitely math, like high math. You don't need it. You know what I mean? Like it helps, and all this stuff helps. Statistics and knowing a little bit about coding. Of course, it helps right now. But there might be a time when there's almost definitely a time when a lot of this stuff won't be needed. And since it's happening so quickly, governance, what to do, like because you could pass a bill. I thought about this earlier. You could pass a bill. Taeks Gambly has to put in links for Peter Orzet and whoever else in ETR. And it's like, yeah, but by the time that bill gets passed, there might be new aspects to this technology that completely make that irrelevant. Like they live in they're reactive. Governments are reactive, right? So this is acting so fast. I'm not sure anything can be done at the governance level, and even just navigating it is really hard.
And it makes, we do this whole thing with the RTA stuff, talking about this. It's really hard to have arguments, discussions, debates about something where people are fixing themselves at a different point on the timeline. Some are saying this is where we're at right now. Some are saying this is where it could be. Some are saying this is where it will end up, like in the deep future. And it's like, because of the ambiguity of the timeline and the speed at which this stuff is going to accelerate and progress, it makes it hard for people to have those conversations without talking past each other.
Yeah, I was going to start this off like, another nuanced conversation. I'm sure this will go well. I'm sure people will love hearing the both sides on this. I think ETR, like the clear line they should go is a Levitan sex bot. Like that makes a lot of sense brand wise. And, if they're going to get into the AI world,
I do think there are fun ways to adopt it, like you're saying. Like, what is one of the most tedious things that people do on fantasy Twitter? They ask start sit questions, they spam everyone, they go to the 30 analysts. Yes, Neil, I can name 30 analysts. Neil was trying to get me to fact check 30 sites off the top of your head. That's behind the paywall. But they copy and paste the same question. Like if you had the bot, the Adam Levitan Twitter bot, where it is trained on how Adam talks and the sex jokes, and then also on like things he said on the podcast. It's like, ask Adam Levitan a start sit question, where it's like, Adam doesn't want to answer those on Twitter, like, or whatever, but could you use AI to outsource that in a fun way, for people? Like, there's stuff like that. I could see the appeal.
Right. It's just right now that would spit out like random guesses.
Right.
Right. I told you what I wanted to do is like throw your channel and Davis's channel and make that, that character, that Davis Pete character with the fake hair you have, as a AI agent, and then feed it our API numbers so it can actually answer the questions of the day. And assuming you guys would be okay with this. I'm not going to do this, but in theory, and then post it on the Run the Sims YouTube channel as an AI host that people can interact with, trained on you guys, and then answer start sit questions based on the data we provided and shit like that.
There you go. Well, wait, what was the thing you were going to say about Davis from the end of the Swolecast?
Well, there was a couple things. Somebody mentioned something too. I want to say.
Yeah, people have been talking about in the chat because Davis, for people who didn't see the Swolecast, Davis continues to have this existential crisis. If he can't make a good living with his YouTube channel, we're brainstorming what jobs he would be qualified for. Apparently, there's like none. We settled on Starbucks employee. The YouTube comments on that Swolecast episode are literally just people suggesting jobs for Davis in a very earnest manner, which is hilarious. But what were you gonna say?
Yeah, right wing grifter would be great. No, I was like talking to myself. I'm like, this is such a marketing grift. He's not going anywhere. He's using this as oh man, I'm gonna leave. I don't know. I guess if I don't get enough Patreon subs,
did you see what I pinned him down on? I was like, what percentage of your like salary goal are you at? And he's like, 60, 70%. It's really just the stuff I want to invest in Bitcoin and my 401k. And I was like, okay, you're gonna go work at Starbucks so you can DCA into Bitcoin every week. Get the fuck out of here.
No, I didn't believe that pity party for a second. Yeah, because I think I started that because I said, well, have you guys ever thought about getting real jobs? I was just kidding in the chat, and then it started him talking about getting a real job. That's my take is Davis Mattek is not going anywhere, and even if he won't admit it, somewhere deep down, it's just a beautiful marketing pitch.
Well, and he also is so offended by my suggestion to do Dub Club, where I'm like, I think one of the things on this show we've talked about over the years is just like pushing past like having to feel guilty about it, whatever, that kind of stuff. You have an advertiser, you're selling your fantasy advice or whatnot. It's like there's a bunch of people that would tail Davis's picks and pay to sweat those out with him. It's like, yeah, if you're going to make this work and you're trying to make ends meet within the space, charge people to hang out and sweat your bets with them. Davis could make that work.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a decent amount of people in his Patreon. I don't know. Like what's 60% of what? 60. I want to know what that number is. I don't know. What I think he should do, like, I think football will take care of itself. I think he kind of already does this, but what he's best at is the start sit quick answer stuff.
Yeah.
He's so certain and he's quick and he knows and like he knows what's going on the slate. Like I'm not joking at all. Like seriously, like listen, you can say he's totally wrong with his answers, but when someone goes, gives him a 4x4 for season-long dynasty on a Sunday, and he answers that shit real quick, and I have to like go and like, what team is this guy on?
The best is if Davis can actually ever win like a best ball tournament or a BR, the pivot from I need to go work at Starbucks to no one has ever known more about whatever sport I just won than me is going to be the best 180 of all time.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's another thing too, is he's not running great, right? He's in basketball specifically not running great. Like if he just ran a little bit better, I don't think you hear any of this. And like it's like the most volatile skill-based gambling there is, basically, is these season-long best ball products. And it's like, how can you tell who's good? It's, from watching YouTube videos, it's very hard.
It's that's another one of Davis's straw man that I always push back on, that like his life would materially change or audience because you finished first in the little schnauzer 3. I think what it would be is a relief from people just trolling and saying, hey, what have you ever won, whatever.
Yes.
Like that for your mentals, absolutely, but it's not going to change your
business.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I see like there is, it's tough trying to live in that world, I guess, and also be like, hey, what have you won lately or something? I don't know. I think you can just be entertaining is plenty for this whatever corner of the internet is plenty.
Well, Davis wasn't mentioned in the Bales Soul reference as being immune to the hostile AI takeover. So Davis falls in the bucket as creators who will get swallowed up, as they should be, because he wasn't named with me and Adam.
What if he was just talking about Davis, as he should be, Davis Mattek.
Oh man.
You want to talk dirt before we get out of here?
Yeah, real quick. So you posted this. So, when we last checked in on Durr, he claimed that he was being held in essentially like a mental hospital in London. And then also a tweet was coerced out of him while he was under like meds to say that he was okay, which seems wild. People have been wondering what's going on. He apparently did an interview recently. Is that the case?
With some crypto babe.
How is this the outlet to kind of like break the story? Or did we just answer ourselves when you said crypto babe?
I watched a lot of it, and that was clearly the answer. It's like, hey, babe, look how many views I can get you.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a 52-minute video, so we're probably not going to be
able to. You know what's interesting is you only need to watch the first like 7 minutes, I would say.
Okay.
And the rest is just him hitting on her.
Seriously?
Pretty much. That's why I asked the Discord, has anyone watched this? Because I wanted to see if I was crazy. Because I started going, it's hard because he doesn't make a lot of sense. Like he makes more sense in this interview than some others. But it's I don't know.
All right.
It doesn't make,
let's listen to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
When I was told about him, I thought he was one of the doctors.
This is the poker news guy.
And someone came and like knocked on my door and was screaming at me like, "Are you meeting whoever?" I think the guy's name was William, but I didn't, And I'm just like, "Why is this guy screaming at me?" And the guy's like, "You can meet him right now. Do you want to meet?" And I'm just like,
"Do you want to meet the poker?"
The guy like literally shouted at me, and so I'm like, "I guess give me a second." And he's like, "You got to decide right now." And then he like shouted again, and I'm like, "All right, I guess not, right?" And the guy left, and I took a second, took a breath, and was like, "All right, fine, I'll go." And I like walked out after the guy. He was like, "Yeah, I'll go meet." I thought this was one of the doctors. I was like, "What's the guy's name?" And so then they made it take 45 minutes for me to meet the guy, which obviously makes no sense. Like that's not proper. That's not appropriate. And then I met the guy. So we only have like 15 minutes left. And his story was, "Oh, I got to go because my parking's only for an hour or whatever." And I'm like, "Buddy, like I'll buy you a new car. Like fuck off. I'm in the fucking mental hospital. These people are being crazy to me." This is at the time, a few minutes in, I realized he's actually a poker news reporter. And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding?" Like,
yeah,
this is a story that's valuable to you. Like your story is I need to go. And then he's like, "Okay, I promise I'll be back." And he shook my hand on it and didn't come back. So if that guy gets shit for being a shithead, I don't really mind. But it was very weird. Like he told a specific version of events that would have been basically exactly what those doctors would want. And that's really weird to me, right? Like, why didn't he mention like, "Oh, I was sitting there waiting for 40.
So now he says the poker news guy was in on this massive Tom Dwan capturing ploy along with a mental hospital in London.
minutes and didn't get to talk to Tom because of them. Oh, I promised him I'd go back. I didn't get to go back. Like, and so the second place I was, they very much cared about kind of optics. Even when I left, someone had the audacity to say, please don't tweet about us.
Does he talk at all about why or how they apprehended him in the first place?
Not that I saw. It's
because it's like that's a huge part to this story. Like you can talk about how you were being held in there against your will, or they wouldn't let you leave. But Tom, why were you in there in the first place? You don't just happen to be stuck in a mental hospital.
So before you play it, someone asked for context, and this Todd Whittles, I think the old poker player, posted. From what I understand, Tom had a psychological issue on the plane coming into Heathrow, which allowed them by UK law to detain, institutionalize, and force medicate him at a nearby hospital. And Durr responded to him, you don't understand very well. So that's the context. And then a poker news guy went to the hospital when this was all happening 2 weeks ago. This is all allegedly. We don't know any details. This is all for entertainment purposes. And then went to the hospital to report on it, did a brief little 30 seconds outside the hospital saying, Tom's fine, he's here, blah, blah, blah. That's it. And so he's talking about that interaction right now. The poker news guy got into the hospital, and the hospital employee was apparently being this aggressive person, knocking on the door, saying you have to go now or never and stuff like that.
Yeah, wish I could fuck them up. I remember actually. Yeah, because I forgot until I was sitting there and I told you guys that, and then I was grumpy when I was like, I can't believe they had the fucking audacity to say that. And it was me and you and Nick sitting at dinner, and I was like, fuckers.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, as bad as that place was, and it was fucking terrible. They were not good doctors. They gave me legal, a take on the law that was wrong, and then I told him it was wrong, and the head doctor tried to slam the door in my face as he told me he was sure I was right and he knew better. And literally, it was like he was telling me something illegal, not following the law, whatever. And this was about cutting me contact, like from people and stuff, which is just. I'm not happy with them, right? But I'm even more unhappy with whatever the fuck happened on the flight, and I'm still trying to process what that was. I definitely was processing some versions of details or reality wrong at some point, and so what I've been told and led to believe that means is that I had what you would call an acute psychotic episode, or I think it's episode is a technical term, and apparently that can only happen from really like two things: either you have a predisposition, so like psychiatric type thing, which I think it's possible. But it's the kind of thing I've looked at before. Like I would be surprised, but then extreme stress can make that more likely, whatever, or substances. And the issue is I had no substances in my body willingly. So if it was from substances, it means someone gave me something, which wouldn't make sense. Like both of the scenarios don't really make sense.
So he is admitting to having an episode on the plane right there. He's just confused how or why it happened.
Got it. Yeah, and acknowledging that it might be true that he could have a psychological issue. Yeah. Ryan said that what I was trying to say, and while he was talking, is like, how does he know British law? He was going like, and they cited the law, which I knew was wrong. I told him it was wrong. Like, how do you know anything about how they run their hospitals? And
Chat GPT pulled it up on his phone.
Maybe so.
Man, I just feel like, don't you? You have to do something probably pretty crazy on a plane, right? To like when you get landed to be marched to a psychiatric hospital or whatever. Like, you have to be causing quite the disturbance, I would imagine.
Because drunk guys, they usually kick off and arrest or just kick off.
Yeah. It is. I want to see more. I was like reading the quote tweets. How do I leave? What the fuck line? I guess there aren't that many regular quote tweets here. It's crazy for people who aren't familiar with the Tom Dwan lore. I mean, this guy was the top of the poker ecosystem from both like the level he was playing and also as a personality. I think I've told the story before when I did some videos for PokerTube, which was basically like a YouTube for poker site that paid me as mans to make some videos. They, at the time, this was like 2017, they're like, anything with Tom Dwan just crushes on poker YouTube and poker algorithms. Just mention Tom Dwan, do something with Tom Dwan. That's all you have to do. It's like, it's an order of magnitude more like any kind of content if it involves Tom Dwan. So like that's the background of like his level of celebrity within the poker world. And someone mentioned in the chat rumors that he owes lots of people money. I don't even think those are rumors. Those are pretty publicly stated things from guys like Harala Bob and others that he owes, 7+ figures to multiple people.
Yeah. How much money does Harala Bob have? He's got to have like billions at this point. Everyone knows.
I think it's a shit ton.
Which is why he can take risks on giving people money, probably. It's I don't know. I like, at first it was funny. Now it's like getting into sad territory. So
yeah, it is. It's
I mean, it's still a little funny.
I would be curious. Like, I remember when I almost got a chance to meet Dwan back when I was doing the man stuff, it was, I was at the Gambling Olympics and Brandon Adams was there, and Brandon Adams, who people know from DFS and poker, is good friends with Tom Dwan, and he was having lunch with him, and he was going to invite me to come and meet Tom at the end of their lunch, and I was going to come over there as Mans because I had been doing so many Tom Dwan bits as Mans, and then he got skittish and left when I was on my way in an Uber over there. But I would be curious, like what Brandon Adams knows about him, or what some of his closer friends think of all of this.
Yeah, when one of his first controversies happened a couple years ago, I think he did do a Brandon Adams interview. Remember, Adams was doing that podcast for a while. I don't know if he kept doing it. He
did an episode like a few months ago. I actually listened to it, but yeah, very sporadically. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's still doing them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's he also seems like he could be okay. Like if he just, I don't know, if like he is doing drugs, stop doing them, and maybe if there's some medication that could help him. He doesn't seem that far gone, which is kind of a good sign, right?
Do you think it's weird that he agreed to do this person's show but didn't share it on his own timeline? Like, I thought the point was
it's right there. Watch the ABRUZ stream.
Oh, okay. I was just scrolling looking for the embed of that. He didn't directly.
It might be right below that or somewhere.
Maybe you're right. He's done a bunch of tweets. You're right. Sorry, I didn't realize these were all. You're right.
There it is.
Here. Okay.
Yeah. How many likes did that get? Only 41, huh?
Dude, you look so pretty and I look crazy. I mean, just like outwardly hitting on this girl for his big tell-all about what happened in the hospital. It's just such a bizarre look.
It's I just got out of the psych ward. So anyways, what are you up to? He's also on he shows in the video I saw.
Okay. Very weird. Very weird. And then he says, April was just the warm-up stream. Don't worry.
Yeah. And that's about the time where I sent you a message. You go, you got to slide into those DMs, Pete. We got to get Dur on here.
Yeah.
I think he, I don't know. I think he's, hopefully, but gambling for a living could have some real psychological issues too. Just gambling for a living and like weird, lifestyle of, sleeping till 3 p.m. every day and stuff like that can build up on you. And he's, in his 40s now, I think, or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe he just needs a break from that lifestyle. I mean, who knows? But
maybe he needs a job at State Farm or Starbucks just to kind of ground him, bring him back to reality.
I would go to that Starbucks, Davis and Tom Dwan. Who's your barista? Dur
and Mattek. Yeah, it'd be incredible. All right, Brian. In-game syndicate. I saw new nerdy video up this week.
Yeah, we got a new nerdy. Adam did a video. We did a nerdy. Ranted. He might actually want to come on Lulz and do a long rant one of these days. Nice. He was saying because he feels people are getting equilibrium strategy and stuff all backwards. Set the record straight.
Okay.
For all the midwits out
there. That's the most nerdy rant ever. People are getting this equilibrium strat all wrong. Time to set the record straight. Who are
Yeah.
the people who are getting it all wrong? Where is this conversation happening? Who else is talking about this, or is this a straw man?
No, it's it's me and you probably on like a random lulls that he's upset with us.
Nerdy arguing with people in his dreams. He's like, I must set the record straight.
These three nerds got this 60% wrong. The Leone bot 5,000 drops next week. Where I hacked into his computer directly and stole all his info. So I hope he's not upset.
Yes. I'm about to go do ship chasing with the aforementioned Davis and Pat Carrain. I think we're going to do a little prediction exercise, which players we think will rise the most in ADP between now and the start of the season, then probably draft a team. If you missed yesterday on the channel, Best Ball Bash and the randomizer, very fun show. You can check that out. And yeah, otherwise, we might see you next week, or we might be replaced by AI agents, as we should be. And so,
as you should be.
You never know. One of these days, you're going to turn the stream on. It's going to be our AI agents doing the show. All right, guys, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time on Lulz.